My name is Sukaja. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about two big books. And I cannot lie. Just kidding. So I'm talking to you about two big books that I read recently. One of them is a fantasy novel. The other one is historical fiction. I'm someone who hasn't read a lot of thick books recently, so this is definitely a first this year. I have to say that I really enjoyed reading thick books that I spent quite some time on, because the story really gets you involved and it shows you so many different aspects of the characters' lives, and you get all the details, and it's not too detailed, but it's also a total page turner. And I know I really enjoyed Fingersmith as well, so that's the third big book that I read this year that I'm super happy about. So without further ado, let's get started. A couple of months ago, I read V.E Schwab's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. When I read the title, I had certain expectations of this book, and I have to say that when I actually got into the story, I realized that my expectations were very different from what I got. This book is about Addie LaRue, who is someone born in the 14th century, I think, in France, in a small village. And she is having this kind of claustrophobic life in this village where she doesn't get to go out. She's kind of confined, and her life is already written out for her, like her fate. She's going to have to get married and move with her husband. It's going to be arranged for her and things like that. Then she meets this herbalist, this lady who lives in the village by herself, and she has a good relationship with this lady. And this lady says, you know what, I'm going to show you some things and you can be my apprentice, help me out with my work. And then she learns that she can pray to certain bad gods. Addie LaRue learns to pray to these gods, and it is advised that she shouldn't pray to them. One day when her marriage is fixed and she has to kind of progress with her life, she feels like there's no other option and she wants to run away. And in her worst moment, she decides to pray to these bad gods. A man appears, and she's an artist. Addie LaRue is an artist, right? So she has drawn this man in his face before on paper, and the same man appears to her, and he's actually the devil, right? So she strikes a deal with the devil, or rather this evil person, right? It is basically this deal of immortality. So she lives forever and has to live multiple centuries unless she gives her soul to the devil. She will not be able to kind of stop living. I'm also a big fan of Dr. Faustus, the play written by Christopher Marlowe. It's a short play where this man kind of strikes a deal with the devil, and he is really arrogant and he's very intellectual. He has to pay a very heavy price as the play goes on, you realize. And I was kind of intrigued by the sound of this because I like those kind of things, and I'm not someone who reads fantasy all the time, but then this sounded interesting, and it's also got a lot of different historical timelines. So I thought, this is going to be totally up my street, and to a large extent it was, but I don't think I would reread this, or I wouldn't go around recommending it to everybody. I don't think it's for everyone. I think it's just for a certain kind of reader. Bits of it really felt filmy to me a little. I did find a lot of elements of Lucifer in this because I have watched the series and I know it's based on a Neil Gaiman series, right? So nothing very original as well is what I felt. It was interesting, fun, just fun, I would say, and just like read it once. The ending, I think, maybe it didn't really satisfy me. Like, it's quite a whirlwind, but largely forgettable towards the end. And I was just like really excited about it as I read the first few chapters. And then there were bits in the middle that were kind of boring. They were a bit unnecessary. It could have been edited out, but then it was still included. I have very mixed feelings about this book, but I know a lot of people have enjoyed it. And I think there were bits that were not part of the historical timeline of this book. Like, there's a lot of focus on, say, her life during certain parts of history, but I think during the World War, when they say that she was a bit of a spy, I really wanted to know more of that era and Addie's existence in that era, right? It was all kind of scraped through the surface. So I felt like, this author was really ambitious, and so maybe because I'm not a fantasy reader and I don't read much fantasy, this book didn't gel well with me. But if you are someone who reads V.E Schwab and she's written a lot of books, maybe you will find this really unputdownable and fantastic. But I just wanted to know what this was all about, and I knew it was getting a lot of fuss on Instagram and it was doing the rounds. So I thought, I should find out for myself, which is why I picked this up. There's like this shifting narrative, different timelines. Then towards the half of the book, you meet another character who is suddenly thrown into the picture, and that does catch you a little off guard. Like, I was a little jarred when this character came in, and I was like, I want to know about Addie. This is Addie's story, right? So why do we have this total new character there and this whole angle that's introduced? It just wasn't convincing enough for me. And that person also has a relationship with the devil. How convenient, right? And she bumps into this person, and I just felt it was very convenient, and I just wanted it to be more of Addie's story, I guess, and that's my take on this book, which I think got a little annoying in parts also because she can never write anything because she has lost her ability because of the devil. She can't tell her story and everybody keeps forgetting her within minutes, you know. That's the most frustrating part about this book, is I don't know how someone can live for so long, like for 300 years, with having to live in the same place and then having to meet the same people, but then they forget you within seconds. It's like they all have amnesia or something, and I don't know how she had the threshold, the patience to kind of survive so many different years living like that and living each day like that, you know, not ever being able to go beyond hi, hello, how are you with any single person that she met, you know. So that's really frustrating. But if you're somebody who enjoyed movies like Groundhog Day and Palm Springs, I like Palm Springs, but then I felt that particular trope is very frustrating. So that's my take on V.E Schwab's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It also has a quote on the front by Neil Gaiman that says, "It's joyous." Very good way to get its readers on board. And now this month, I had the pleasure of reading this book, which is Great Circle by Maggie Shipsted. Now this book was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 2021, that's last year. I was intrigued to read it because every booktuber was saying this is definitely going to be on the shortlist and it's great, and it's also written by a woman and it's historical fiction, so I thought, why not get into it, right? It explores women in aviation in the 50s and 40s and 30s. So this book starts off in the 1920s and it sketches out the life of this fictional pilot, Marion Graves. She never existed in real life, and for me that was the most disappointing part, by the way. The fact that I found out after reading 660 pages of Marion Graves' life, right, and how beautifully this author kind of puts everything out there, and it's so believable, so believable. You want it to be true. You want this person to have actually existed in history, right? And then you find out at the end of it that that person doesn't exist. You can't research about Marion Graves on Google. You can't find images of what she looked like. You can't find out about the planes she tried and things like that. So that's just disappointing. So that was the worst part about this book. Otherwise, this book was phenomenal. It's written really well. It's unputdownable. There were no boring parts of this, and every page was a page turner. What is done really well is the research, I think, and how she very cleverly includes certain subplots, and all the characters are so well developed and so well rounded that they could have actually been real people. I think it's really great that she's chosen to write about female aviation because that's a topic that hasn't been covered much, right? So this author has done the work for you. She's kind of read a lot about this topic and she's created a world. It draws inspiration from Amelia Earhart, who was an actual female pilot who lived back in the day. But then the Great Circle, right? It's about this pilot who decides to kind of go from North Pole to South Pole. She wants to do a circumnavigation on flight. So that is what this is about, and it's very ambitious. And I think the whole idea about passion, about how you can suddenly be gripped by wanting to do a certain thing and you might not know why you want to do it, but then it seizes you, that force, right? And then you have to kind of execute and you have to figure out a way how you're going to make that happen. So that's what this book is all about, if you ask me. How that passion kind of latches on to this girl and how she's kind of going to lengths to make it happen is so inspiring and really believable and ambitious. And also it's a very nice take on the life of women pilots back in the day and how difficult it was for them to kind of get jobs, how people looked on women pilots, and the whole idea of a woman working, leave alone riding a plane, is like something that's very, oh my god, taboo. I think it's very readable. It's written in very simple language. The font size is great, which is very important for me in like big books. No regrets reading this. Highly recommended, and I think it was worth my time. I would couple this book with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and if you like that book, I think you like this as well, because they're both about fictionalized retellings of women's lives and the historical fiction. If you liked Seven Husbands, and definitely give this a go as well. Nothing very technical about pilots and planes and stuff here. You feel for this character and you go on the journey that she goes on. You're in the air up there. Basically you see all of it from the sky. It's amazing how a book can make you feel that way. So definitely worth a read. Love to hear from you if you've read either of these books. What were your thoughts? What have you been reading? Leave a comment down below so I can, learn about it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. I will be back soon with more bookish content. In the meantime, stay safe, stay sane. Bye.